Kyle was a young human explorer working for the Earth Alliance. His mission had taken him to a peaceful alien planet called Valari, a beautiful world full of tall blue trees, glowing rivers, and soft skies. The people of Valari, known as the Valarians, were kind and calm, with large eyes, soft voices, and a deep respect for life. During his stay, Kyle often walked through the village, learning their ways. That's where he met her, Lura, a small Valarian girl with bright purple eyes and skin that shimmered pale blue under the sun. She was curious about everything human and followed him around with endless questions. Why do humans eat so fast? Why do you laugh when nothing is funny? Why do you wear those heavy boots? Kyle laughed every time and answered her kindly. She reminded him of a kid back home. Over the weeks, they became good friends. He shared stories about Earth, and she showed him the gentle animals of her world. Sometimes, she would bring him glowing fruit. Other times, she made him tiny stone gifts. They sat together under the trees, talking and laughing like brother and sister. One sunny afternoon, Lura sat beside him near the river, picking flowers. She looked up and asked in a serious voice, "Do human men marry alien girls?" Kyle smiled. "Sometimes they do." She tilted her head. "Then when I grow up, will you marry me?" He was caught off guard by her question, but he didn't want to hurt her feelings. So he chuckled and said with a wink, "Sure. When you grow up, I'll marry you." Laura's eyes sparkled and she nodded seriously. "Then I will grow up fast." To Kyle, it was just a playful moment, a kind answer to a sweet question. But for Lura, those words meant something. Her people believed that promises, even light ones, carried power. Weeks passed, and Kyle's mission came to an end. On his last day, the Valarians held a small farewell gathering. They offered songs and gifts. Lura came to him with a small wooden carving of a human and a Valarian standing together. She pressed it into his hand and whispered, "Don't forget." Kyle smiled and gave her a light pat on the head. "I won't," he said gently, then walked toward his shuttle. As the ship lifted off, Lura stood alone near the trees, watching the sky. She held a hand to her chest and whispered to herself, "I'll come back to him when I'm ready." And, far above the peaceful blue world, Kyle looked out the window one last time, never guessing that one day the little girl would return. Years passed quietly. Kyle returned to Earth and took a job in a science research center near the mountains. Life slowed down. He lived alone, working on new energy systems and teaching young cadets about space travel. Though he had visited many worlds, nothing quite stayed in his heart like the time he spent on Valari. Sometimes he would look at the small wooden carving that still sat on his shelf, the gift from a young alien girl. It always made him smile, but he thought she had probably forgotten about him. After all, she was just a child back then. But on one cloudy morning, something strange happened. A large alert spread through the Earth Alliance base. A small alien craft had entered Earth's orbit, fast and silent. It didn't respond to normal signals. The security teams were ready to take action, but before they could, a message came through in perfect human language. "I am looking for Kyle. Tell him Lura has come." Kyle was sitting at his desk when the message reached him. He froze. His heart skipped a beat. Lura? That name pulled old memories from deep inside his mind. Her voice, her laugh, her bright purple eyes. It couldn't be. He hurried to the landing zone just outside the base. Soldiers stood in a circle around the ship, weapons ready but unsure. The small alien vessel looked advanced, smooth silver, glowing softly with no weapons in sight. Then the door opened, and she stepped out. She was tall now, graceful, with long flowing hair the color of night clouds. Her skin was still pale blue, but her eyes had a calm strength that was new. Her clothes were beautiful and unlike anything on Earth. But her face, yes, that same face, grown, mature, but still Lura. Kyle took a step forward, still unsure. She looked at him and smiled gently. "You kept the carving," she said. His eyes widened. "You remember that?" She nodded. I remember everything. People around them stared in silence. No one knew what to say. Even Kyle had trouble finding words. He expected this to be some kind of diplomatic visit, maybe a mission, but Laura had come for something else. I came for you, she said simply. Kyle tried to understand. Why? After all this time? Laura's voice was calm. Because you made a promise, a small one, but to my people, promises shape the future. He was speechless. She wasn't a child anymore. She had grown into someone powerful, confident, and yet still kind, and now she was standing before him in front of Earth's top officers, claiming a promise he never thought would matter. Kyle looked at her with a mixture of wonder and disbelief. Something told him this was just the beginning. Kyle invited Laura into the base for tea. It was quiet inside the guest lounge. Soldiers and scientists watched from a distance, whispering. They had never seen an alien woman like her, elegant, calm, and confident. She walked with grace, but her eyes never left Kyle. He poured her a cup and tried to act normal. So, you've changed a lot. Laura smiled. Yes. My body has grown, but so has my mind. I studied diplomacy, languages, and the history of your people. Kyle raised his eyebrows. You studied humans? She nodded. Because one of them made a promise to me. Kyle gave a small laugh, still unsure how serious this was. I was joking, Laura. You were just a child. But I wasn't laughing, she said softly. You were kind to me when others ignored me. You treated me with respect, like an equal. In my culture, that means more than a simple joke. Kyle looked into her eyes and felt something strange. She wasn't the little girl picking flowers anymore. She was a woman now, standing with pride and purpose. What do you want from me? He asked. Laura didn't rush her answer. I want to see if the promise still has meaning. I'm not here to take something from you. I came to understand you, to know if your heart remembers me, even a little. Kyle leaned back. He had never seen an alien act this way, not with such honesty. His thoughts were a mix of confusion and curiosity. The world outside kept turning, but in that room time felt like it had paused. Then an officer entered the room. Sir, the council is requesting a meeting. They want to speak with your guest. Kyle stood up. Give us 5 more minutes. The officer nodded and left. Laura looked at him. They think I came here for politics. They think I'm offering my hand to build trust between our planets. Are you? Kyle asked. She shook her head. No. I came here for you. But if being near you helps my people and yours become friends, then that's a gift I'll accept. Kyle was silent again. He felt the weight of her words. All these years he had forgotten the small moment by the river. But she hadn't. She remembered everything. I need time, Kyle said. This is a lot. I understand, she replied. But I'm not in a hurry. I waited this long. I can wait a little more. As they walked out of the room together, people stared. Whispers followed them like shadows. Some saw an alien diplomat. Others saw a mystery. But Kyle now saw something else. A girl who had kept her heart open across the stars, and had returned not as a child but as someone who had truly grown. The news of Laura's arrival spread fast across the Earth Alliance. Videos of her stepping out of the alien ship and walking beside Kyle were all over the media. People everywhere started asking questions. Who is she? Why is she here? Is this an alien marriage proposal? Some laughed, some were curious, others were worried. Back on Valari, leaders watched closely. Laura was not just anyone. She was the daughter of a respected noble family. Her choice to visit Earth alone had surprised even her own people. In the Earth Alliance Council chamber, high-ranking officials gathered. They had many questions for both Kyle and Laura. Some believed she came to offer peace or a treaty. Others thought it was a trick or part of a hidden plan. But Laura spoke clearly. I came to meet Kyle. Nothing more. I made a promise to myself. I'm keeping it. The council was silent for a moment. One ambassador leaned forward. You traveled Across space just for one human? Laura nodded. In my culture, a promise from the heart is not small. When someone speaks with kindness and respect, we honor it. That is why I came. Outside the chamber, people argued. Some humans thought it was a beautiful story, an alien girl returning for the one who had once shown her kindness. Others were suspicious. This could be a trap, they said. We shouldn't trust it so easily. Kyle tried to stay calm. He had no idea that a simple joke he made years ago would turn into such a big event. Reporters followed him. People sent him messages. Some called him lucky. Others called him a fool. At night, Kyle sat alone, looking up at the stars. Laura joined him quietly. "Did I make things harder for you?" she asked. He shook his head. "I don't know. Maybe. But it's not your fault. The world doesn't know how to understand something this different." Laura looked at him. "Then help them understand. If you speak, maybe they will listen." Kyle sighed. "I don't even know how I feel yet. This is a lot to take in." "I'm not asking for your answer now," she said softly. "Just don't push me away before your heart speaks." Kyle looked at her, truly looked. She wasn't here for power or fame. She wasn't here to change Earth's future. She was here because of him, and deep inside, something began to stir. Something old and warm. He didn't know where this story would go, but one thing was clear. The galaxy was watching. The days that followed were not easy. Laura stayed as a guest on Earth, but her presence made many people uncomfortable. Some groups believed she was trying to control Kyle. Others said aliens should not be allowed to get close to humans in such personal ways. One night, Kyle received a warning from a friend in the security team. "There's a group that wants her gone. They don't trust aliens, and they really don't like you spending time with her." Kyle frowned. "She hasn't done anything wrong." "That doesn't matter to them," his friend replied. "Be careful." Kyle felt the weight of everything growing. He had never wanted fame. He had never asked to be part of something political. All he had done was show kindness to a little alien girl years ago, and now it felt like the world was watching his every move. Later that evening, Kyle and Laura were walking near the garden area of the Earth base. It was quiet, peaceful. The stars shone above them, and Laura seemed relaxed. But then, it happened. Loud sound echoed through the air. A small energy blast hit the ground near their feet. Laura pushed Kyle to the ground just in time. Another blast flew past them, hitting a wall and leaving a burn mark. Guards came running. The attackers had escaped, leaving only fear behind. Laura had been hit, not seriously, but enough to leave a mark on her shoulder. She refused medical help until she was sure Kyle was safe. "I'm fine," he said, worried. "But why did you protect me?" She looked at him with calm eyes. "Because I made a promise, and my heart chose you." Her words shook something deep inside Kyle. She was wounded and yet still thinking of him, still protecting him. At the medical wing, the doctors treated her shoulder. Kyle sat nearby, quiet, thinking. He remembered all the times she had smiled at him as a child. He remembered the carving, the river, the moment he said those words to make her laugh. And now, here she was, grown up, brave, and still loyal to him. Outside the base, more protests were growing. People shouted that aliens should leave. Some called Kyle a traitor. But inside the base, he looked at Laura and felt something he had not felt in a long time. He felt peace. He felt seen. He felt connected. Laura smiled at him through the pain. "I'll leave if you ask me to, but my heart will stay." Kyle shook his head. "No, you're not leaving. Not now." And in that quiet moment, without any big speeches or announcements, something changed inside him. He no longer saw Laura as just an alien. He saw her as someone who had always believed in him, even when no one else did. Laura rested in the medical wing for 2 more days. Her wound was healing fast thanks to her species' strong body, but Kyle stayed close by, only leaving when needed. He brought her fruit, water, and even read to her from his old notebooks. The guards didn't stop him anymore. They had seen the attack too. Many were starting to understand she wasn't a threat. One afternoon, as soft sunlight filled the room, Lura looked at Kyle and said, "You've changed." Kyle smiled. "You've changed more." She tilted her head. "But your heart feels the same. Kind, and a little lost." He looked down, unsure what to say. "I know this has been hard," she said. "I didn't come to make your life difficult. I only came to answer the promise you gave, even if you don't remember it clearly." Kyle leaned back in the chair and stared at the ceiling. "I remember it now. I remember everything. I said it as a joke to make you smile. I didn't know you'd hold on to it." Lura gently nodded. "Your words gave me hope. They helped me grow strong. While others trained for power or war, I prepared myself to walk beside you. If you ever wanted me." Silence filled the room. Kyle's chest felt heavy. He never meant to lead her on, but he also couldn't ignore what he felt now. She was no longer a memory. She was here, real, brave, and standing by him when many others had walked away, I'm afraid, Kyle finally admitted. "Not of you, but of what this means, of what people will say. What if I make the wrong choice?" Lura gave a soft smile. "Then make it with your heart, not with fear." Her words touched something deep inside him. Later that evening, Kyle stood before the Earth Council. They asked him what decision he had made about the alien guest. He stood tall and said, "She's not a guest. She's a friend. She's a brave soul who came to our world with trust. I will not turn her away. I choose to stand by her." The room was quiet. Some looked surprised, some nodded. Others still doubted. But Lura, standing in the corner, smiled. Later that night, under the stars, Kyle met her in the garden. No cameras, no soldiers, just the two of them. He looked at her and said gently, "I may not have meant it as a promise then, but I do now." Lura's eyes shimmered. "Then I accept. No grand lights, no big ceremony, just a simple moment between two people from different worlds." And for the first time, Kyle didn't feel confused. He felt clear, calm, and maybe finally complete. Weeks passed and the noise around them slowly faded. People still talked, of course, but the shouting had turned into soft voices. Some still didn't understand Kyle's choice, but many had begun to accept it. Some even called it beautiful. Bond formed not by power or politics, but by a promise and a heart that never forgot. Lura stayed on Earth not as a guest or a visitor, but as someone who belonged. She met with human leaders, helped share knowledge about her world, and taught young students about peace between species. But every evening, she and Kyle would walk through the garden, just as they had done on Valari long ago, when she was still small and the stars seemed so far away. One morning, the Earth Alliance sent out a message to all colonies and worlds. A peaceful ceremony would be held at Unity Hall to honor the connection between two people, one human, one alien, and what that bond had taught everyone. It wasn't a wedding in the usual way. There were no grand decorations or loud music. It was quiet, warm, and filled with honest words. Kyle wore a simple, dark suit. Lura wore a soft silver robe from her home world. Their hands touched gently as they stood before a small group of humans, Valerians and others who came just to witness the moment. Kyle looked into her eyes and said, "I once made a promise without knowing its meaning. Now, I speak it again, with full understanding. I choose to stand with you not as a hero, not as a joke, but as someone who respects and cares for you." Lura's eyes glowed softly. "And I choose you, Kyle. You gave me hope when I had none. You saw me when others didn't. I waited. I learned, and I came back, because my heart remembered." There was silence. Then a soft cheer. Some clapped. Others wiped away tears. Even the council members, once cold and unsure, stood in quiet respect. The moment was shared across galaxies. Screens on distant worlds showed the image of a human and an alien standing side by side, not in battle, but in peace. Not for politics, but for love, trust, and understanding. Back in the garden days later, Kyle and Laura sat beneath the stars. You really waited all those years? Kyle asked with a small smile. Laura nodded. You were worth waiting for. He chuckled softly. You turned a joke into a vow. She touched his hand. No. You did. And as the stars twinkled above, the garden was quiet, filled only with the peace of two hearts finally home. Across the stars, the story of the human and the alien girl who returned was told again and again, not as a legend, but as a reminder that even one kind word can echo across worlds.